Hello, I'm Bob. I work at the Cabinet Office. I actually work on GDS on GOVUK. I have two roles, which I think, and I'm going to be talking about how GOVUK does on call. Who am I? I've been a sysadmin for over 17 years. I've actually recently transitioned to being a product owner for the GOVUK infrastructure. I've actually been working for over 3 years on GOVUK. I'm actually now the longest serving technical member of staff on GOVUK, which is okay. I mean, it's fine. I'm also the head of the web operations community at GDS. So I now care about so we have about 25 web operations, which is our term for sysadmin, site reliability engineer, infocoder, what other job title we have this week. Means I find it really hard to hire people because no one knows what it means unless you've actually read the web operations book, at which point, yes, people know what I mean by that. So I actually care about the well-being of the web operations and their progression and their career and stuff like that. So, question, is GOVUK scale? Anyone know? Anyone think we are? Hands up if you think we are. Okay. So, GOVUK currently has 75 applications. At peak, we see 2,000 requests a second on our CDN. We see 150 requests a second at Origin, and we have 30 million unique users per week. I don't actually think we're scale. We are quite big. I mean, that seems like a lot of people. But to be honest, my previous place of employment, we were doing an order of magnitude more traffic, and I didn't even think that was that big. We actually also have 104 VMs, which upsets me slightly at times, for production. We actually then have 300 VMs across all our environments. Is GOVUK important? Hands up. How many of you used GOVUK within the last week? In the last day? Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's important, and it's actually really important for us to keep it up. People use it, and people need to interact with government. So we're actually the start of the journey for a lot of people. So we're not transactional, but there is actually one transactional thing, but we don't worry about it so much. But there are lots of we're the links out to the other services where people find out information they want. So how do you apply for a visa? Where do you apply for the visa? How do you pay your tax? Should you pay tax? So how does GOVUK do on call? We have two types of on-call. So we have the concept of second line, which is how we do on-call during working hours. Basically, we have two technical members of staff. So we do DevOps. We have, on GOVUK, we have somewhere in the region of, well, we currently have only 4 web operations staff, and we have about 45 developers, I believe. It should be more, but it's not. So recently, this has just changed. So we always have two technical members of staff who get paged if something's going wrong. They actually are separate. They come out from their teams and spend a week dealing with alerts, incidents, and requests. So we have, like, if someone wants to so most of our developers can deploy to production themselves, but some of them don't have access. So that would be a request to come in, and the second line would help them deploy, making sure the badge of deploy was there, and that's the second line of the keeps, the badge of deploy, which is an important part of how GOVUK works. They then, another request, like from our users in government, going, this thing isn't working, can you fix this? Can you remove this PDF because we published it in error? I've had those phone calls, they're not fun. So that's what they spend their time doing. So it's 2 people. Actually, we actually have 3 people do it sometimes as well. So but as a group of people doing on call, we decided to actually have a second line charter where we say how we're going to do second line. So is that readable? No, probably not. Okay, so there are a few things here. These are basically the 8 rules that we decided as a team of technical people on GOVUK how we would do second line. So the first one is important. Second line is a learning experience. You should aim to learn more about how GOVUK operates during the week. So as I said, we have 45 developers. we have 75 apps. Not every developer works on every app, and actually, you can work and do the maths. We have more apps than developers. We actually split into 5 product teams. So even then, within a product, a developer will only probably know something about some of only the things their product team cares about. But when you do second line, you see what all of the things are like. So you can get to see, you should learn something about how GovUK works in total. Work together, be inclusive, and don't leave anyone out or alone. So being on call is no fun. You shouldn't just leave someone on their own. You should, and if we try, obviously with the learning thing, you need to actually tell people. So if you're doing something and it's something someone else doesn't know, you should work with them so they learn how to do it, so you don't rely on you the next time. It starts at 9:30, be there. It starts at, that's self-explanatory, to be honest. So we can go to meetings. If something goes wrong, it will call you, so you can go to meetings. But you should tell the rest of your team that you're going to be in the meeting so they know. It's fine. So make small improvements to make it better for the next team, e.g. documentation automation. So we have the ops manual, where we keep like our run books or playbooks, whatever you want to call it this week, about how to fix things when something goes wrong. Hopefully, or you would fix the underlying problem, or you add some more automation. It's like we have Fabric scripts, which are available on GitHub, in the AlphaGov organization. Where we have things like, we sometimes have to, like for instance, we have stuff to reboot servers, and we have our Fabric script, which will do a Mongo cluster. Actually, the Mongo cluster we actually have now automated entirely to just be rebooted itself overnight. But say, for instance, the Elasticsearch cluster, we have to wait. But it's just, someone has to type one command, and our Elasticsearch clusters will get rebooted in a safe way such that it will all work. And that was something which did happen on second line. There's no such thing as a stupid question, but check the ops manual first. So we have documentation in the ops manual, but sometimes it's not there. But it's a learning experience, so don't feel that what you asked is stupid. But yeah, we may have already written it down. Admittedly, that may not be clear, at which point you should fix it for the next team. Help others and be patient. Not everyone knows the same things. So up until recently, the second line team was one web operations engineer and one developer. Obviously, we have different skill sets, so we would be able to learn stuff of each other. And yes, I have 15 years experience of how computers just go wrong all the time. Our junior developers don't. And they're not as bitter and cynical as I am, although I do fake that quite a bit. Leave the desk clean entirely when you finish. Because it's a rotating team of a week, you probably shouldn't leave a mess behind. But hey, there you go. But that's sort of, we had a 2-hour workshop with the 20 of us at the time. We all worked this out. It was good, and we still work by it now, and we iterate. So currently, there are 28 people who can be on call during the working day. As I said, it's made up of developers. So we have 45 developers, but actually not all of them are allowed to have production access, so they can't be on second line. We're training more of them up, but for instance, contractors, we're not so keen on. Perhaps I would have done it, 28 people, I don't know. So that's second line. On call, so that is the out of hours stuff, is not as good. We currently only have 9 people who are on call. This is a lot. We actually used to have a lot more, but we've had some turnover in staff because they'd been there 4 years. It was time for them to go off and do something better. Although why I think GovUK is the best thing I've ever worked on, so why would you go anywhere else? I don't know. This means that people rotate frequently, and we always have 2 people on call. So actually, that's a pretty harsh rotation. I'm actually not on this rotation anymore. I've only just come off it. But that's why it used to be 10 this week, it's now 9. I checked this morning. But then again, only 6 alerts will call people out of hours. And we're very careful about this. And actually, another slide coming, but we will make sure that only something which we think is not business critical, user critical. We care about user needs. What is something going wrong that a user will need? Is it actually, some of the things we get called for are legislation things. So some things have to be published at a certain time. This will wake something up. Actually, most of those things get published at 9:30 in the morning, so actually that doesn't really happen. When I've been on call for in 3 years, I've been on call for GovUK. I was called out of hours. I've been called out of hours 5 times, only once when I was asleep. And that was a false alarm, but we fixed it afterwards. It's fine. VMs going down will also call people. Now, this is something we still have, and I'm not sure it should. We have single points of failure, and I expect those single points of failure VMs should call someone, but actually other things would be going wrong, so you would know if we'd lost our databases, I would hope. I mean, for reasons we're re-architecting and things will be better, but it's clusters of machines. We have 7 machines for one of the, so while I said we have 75 apps, we have 74 apps which are like microservices, but not really, and we have one ginormous monolith. That monolith needs 15 machines to itself. The rest of the 74 apps manage with about 9. Well, VMs at this. I mean, they're quite big VMs, it must be said, and we don't get to use AWS yet. We're moving. If someone gets called out of hours, we will have a mini instant review whenever someone's called, because we need to work out, was this call worth having? Was it a false alarm? Are we monitoring the wrong thing? We want our people to be happy. We like sleep. I like sleep. I get 7 hours a night at least because I don't drink caffeine anymore. Unlike some of my colleagues who seem to mainline it all the time. So we get called and it's fine, it happens sometimes. We actually check that our paging works. So our second line rotation, our second line and on-call rotation happens on Wednesdays. So at 1100 UTC, we will remove a file from our production systems, which will then cause PagerDuty to start going through and escalating up through everyone who's on call. We did this because, we do this to check that actually people have set their phones up right. We've got the right contact details. Everyone knows what to do, because sometimes, especially with the new people, they get a bit flustered if they get the call. But if we do it at what's actually happened is, because it was set to 11 o'clock UTC when we're normally at the desks, because we're now in BST, it happens at midday. And yeah, some of us go to lunch at midday, and then the people left behind get a bit concerned if it's their first one when this PagerDuty goes off, and it's like, anyway, so yeah, it's a good thing. It makes sure it all works, because we have found a week once we'd misconfigured something and PagerDuty stopped working. Thankfully, nothing had gone wrong, so it was okay. But yeah, because we don't get called that often in the first place. Escalations. Now, when someone's on call or on second line, there's a primary and a secondary. Those are the people who are supposed to deal with most technical issues if it gets to PagerDuty. However, there are 3 people who are escalation points, and we rotate through. I'm now on this one, so I actually rotate every 3 weeks now. But we're the third line if something goes wrong enough that the two the primary and secondary can't deal with it, or if someone needs to make a decision about how bad it is and what we should do. So I have the authority to say we will ring people now. We need to wake everyone up, although we don't necessarily have to do that. So we're on-call escalations. Now, what used to happen is it used to be the on-call escalation, the third level. We also had another phone number which people could ring. So all of the departments could ring us about major technical issues. The other thing that can happen is emergency publishing. Now, GOVUK is obviously the website of the government. There are certain things that the government should announce. And for instance, one of the things is we have the concept of local emergencies, national emergencies, and then notable deaths. So we need to be able to publish those at any time. So I can get a phone call at 1 in the morning, and some of them we don't do out of hours, some of them we do, but the emergency publishing can come at any time during the day. Someone has to answer it. So that's what I got. There's 3 of us on it now because we had one person doing that, and it wasn't good for that person. And we realised that, and we changed it, and now we have the 3 of us. We're hoping to make it more people, because nearly all of our senior management team should be able to make the calls. It's like, especially if the site is down and it's at 3 in the morning and the on-call people can't fix it. We don't expect people to be heroes. We really don't. They can take their time. If they can't fix it, we'll wait till the morning. Or we can make the call. So actually there are some things which are now so important that we should try and fix them. So travel advice. So if there's been a terrorist attack somewhere and you shouldn't go to this country, that does get published at night and people expect emails about it. This is something we try and make sure works. We also try and make sure that, so there are drug recalls, which are also now published on GOVUK. That should also work, although I do wonder if that ever gets published overnight. It must be said. They're civil servants too. They probably don't get up at the night to publish it, whereas with the travel advice, it's done by the embassies. So that's 24/7 as it is, but we don't necessarily guarantee, well, we do guarantee it work, but hey, SLAs. Now, we don't call them postmortems because postmortems is a bit gruesome. We have instant reviews. And we have blameless instant reviews, and it does work. We all get on with each other. I mean, we may blame vendors, but in a joking manner. I mean, and some bits of our software get blamed a lot, but we don't blame the people who wrote it, especially not in the instant review report. Let's put it that way. We may have a bit of a snide comment about it afterwards. So we actually publish our instant reviews now. So if you go to inside gov.blog.gov.uk and look at the incidents category, you can see our last one. We actually had one last week where we were actually, well, see, this is what is uptime is a good question. As far as you, the public, were concerned, we weren't down. You may have seen the odd 500, but we actually have the ability to, our CDN allows us to fail over to the mirrors. So we have static mirrors of GOVUK, because most of GOVUK is basically static content. We have 75 apps as dynamic, but we can have a very good approximation of the site and the information you want. Search stops working, but you probably all just use Google anyway. So you can actually also see what alerts wake people up, because our public repo is open. You can also see how we fail over to our mirrors, because our VCL for our provider is open. Our Fabric scripts are open. We've very rarely actually had anyone send any pull requests for us, but hey, people can see it. And I've actually had talked to people, and it's actually, we show good practice. And indeed, nearly all the GOVUK apps are actually open. So we have the 75 apps. I suspect actually all but one of them is on our GitHub organization, which is github.com/alphagov. Tools. Now, hey, this is the interesting bit. These are things we use. So Isinga, Graphite, CollectD, PagerDuty, Pingdom. Pingdom actually checks stuff. So the final result is Pingdom will call PagerDuty if it can't contact www.gov.uk. And actually in a special way to make sure it's not just cached. It also, if search doesn't work, it will call someone as well. So actually, there are two other things, there are two Pingdom alerts which will call people. And that's fine. And actually, Graphite and CollectD, a lot of our alerts are based on actually the metrics. So for instance, one of the alerts which will call people overnight is if our 500 rates gets above 5%. This is a number we're happy with. It doesn't normally. It will call people as soon as and actually it's over 5% over 5 minutes. Because if we're doing 500s, we're almost certainly going to the mirror. So actually it's not a great impact to the users. It's not so great. Some of the publishers have issues, but there you go. What could be better? Oh, so many things could be better. Did I actually put anything? No, I didn't put anything. Okay, so I may have only written these slides about an hour before we started this evening. What could be better? So at the moment, we're in a single data center. We have some DR stuff, but it's not great. We're actually just about to move our staging environment so it can become production. But we are moving to the PAS. Currently, another team within GDS is building a PAS on Cloud Foundry, so containers and all that jazz. So GovUK is moving to the PAS, basically, and that's what we're going to do, at which point we can, they're doing multi-AZ by default in AWS, so it's spread everywhere, so that should be fine. Also, we're actually doing a technical re-architecture on the actual application side, because at the moment we have 6 data stores. Great. So if I have to do DR, I have to recover all 6 of them. Some of them we don't. Some of them were at the back of the list, but there's 2 which need to be done first. we're moving to a central store of all of the pages on GovUK in one data store, so that we only have to have that backed up, and with it being, in like with PAS, we'll actually get a second PAS, all we have to do is restore that database somewhere and bring up the apps around it, and it will be fine. And actually, we're looking to make most of the pages basically be pre-generated as JSON, and the next plan is to put that all on S3, then have multiple copies of our front-end apps, and everything should be better, hopefully. And to us, some of our alerting will be better. I mean, like for instance, I said, we should stop alerting on like hosts going down, because that really shouldn't matter anymore. This is the future. I mean, for instance, currently our host names matter, and that still makes me really upset, to be honest. And we're hiring. Look at the blog. Come talk to me if you want to be WebOps. We're hiring devs, we're hiring tech arcs. Hey, thank you much. Any questions? How long did I take? To be honest?
We have 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Excellent. I spoke enough then. Anyone for questions then? Yeah. Want to throw the thing?
Yeah.
Ready? So how do you decide what alerts go on the pager and what things aren't worth alerting for? And do you have a procedure for things that are... So we've got a lot of stuff that are alerting us, but actually we don't need to deal with it right now. We kind of need to look at it. So do you have a way of dealing with those sort of incidents?
Yeah. So during the day, second line are supposed to look at things which should be done, but it's okay if they don't get done. The things which call out of hours are things that we know. So one of them is we publish statistics at 9:30 in the morning. I mean and there are some actually overnight as well. Like for instance, we have a legal requirement that these statistics should be published then. And actually, we've had people complain where they've been published at 9:31 and 2 seconds. It's just paperwork we have to fill in, but they also can move the market. So that's why they have to be published. Then, for instance, it's like the 500 rates was an arbitrary decision. It means we're having problems. Someone should at least look at it and see what it is. I mean, for instance, we had a thing yesterday afternoon where one of our apps was being crawled quite badly, and it phoned people during the day. It's an app we don't worry about too much, but we need to know, and we actually decided we're probably going to make some changes so that app doesn't call people anymore, because we don't think it's as important as some of the other bits. So, for instance, there's like the drug alerts and travel advice are important things, and we should keep those working, as is the emergency publishing. It's just over time. I mean, and we really don't want people to lose sleep. We're very careful about this. We have tuned it. I mean, for instance, I think we've removed a couple in the last month or so because we went really sure we won't be being woken up for this, because we have the mitigation that if things are down, we're almost certainly serving the static content to people still. This is the advantage we have by not having any transactional services, so we can make that choice. Yeah, I mean, and again, to be honest, if I'm being honest, we don't get paid enough to be on call, so we don't want to make it too onerous for people. And actually, I would say, this is what I wore to work today, by the way, so it's not like being a civil servant's awesome. Anyway. Anyone else? Behind you. Oh, no. You first and then that one. Yeah.
Do you have any first line support, and what do they do?
Okay. Yes, there is a team of people who answer questions from the general public. They also get some of so every page on GovUK has a feedback form. So sometimes people will feedback technical issues as well, and then they will filter that up for us. I mean, the reason why the technical second line is called second line is because we have the user support first line, but they very rarely have technical issues to deal with, and to be honest, people probably can't report as an issue if we're down, but there we go. But yeah, no, they do see something, and actually they also do the first line. So we have the government publishers, there are about 10,000 of those, and yeah, they have more technical queries, or they say, I've published this thing, I did it in error, how do I correct that? I tried to publish this thing, it didn't work, can you have a look? And that may go, there's another second line team as well which deals with the content, but sometimes they go, we can't deal with this, it has to be the technical team who now deals with it. And actually and if it's a proper technical issue, the second line team doesn't necessarily have to fix it. They have to go, actually, this is something we can't fix, and it goes to the product teams, which are, the product teams are third line, basically. Yeah.
So if I understood correctly, you said that you don't get woken up if the static content stops being served.
So no, the static so the static content should always be served. Well, to be honest, we assume it will always be served. I mean, we don't necessarily, we do alert on that actually. If the static content, if the mirrors aren't working, we won't necessarily get called about that. But actually, if that's happened, probably one of the other things which would have called us already. So we probably know. I mean, the thing is, and actually the other day we found that the static mirrors aren't as useful as they could be from a certain point of view. They do some things slightly wrong, which we need to fix, and we're about to do that as well. So I mean, we're always constantly iterating. We're always trying to find the best way to do stuff. Time up, or is it time for another question? Well, if there are any more questions, or to be honest, we should go to the pub. Do you want a question? No, fine. Yeah, we should go to the pub.
We have a couple of minutes more, so.
Anyone for another question? I'm gasping for a pint, personally. All done? Thank you much. Thank you much. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, everyone, for coming. This is it for today. Now, some of us, we are going to a pub, the Antwerp, which is very close by, because we need to leave the building in the next minutes. But they have drinks in the pub, so it's very appealing. Some of my colleagues from Server Density, they are around, so if you want to join the group and come for some drinks and some chats, will be great. And again, thanks very much for coming.